Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for being such a lovely, patient audience that I can't even see, not just due to the worldwide pandemic that would prevent such a gathering, more just because we don't have the budget and this show is taped in a small bedroom office. But we don't care about that because I've got a killer ceremony waiting just around the corner. It's the Album Awards, Quarter 3 2020 edition, right here on ARTV. As your host, I think it's my duty to remind you that this show was established to take the weight of non-stop individual reviews off of my shoulders, so expect short breakdowns of more than 20 unique albums this quarter, some of which I've already covered in dedicated videos, but with even more being records I've never spoken about until now. Pause your screen right here to see the established rules for the Album Awards, and of course a reminder that Quarter 3 2020 ran from July 1st to September 30th, and all the releases being covered in this video must have been released during that time frame. You guys know the drill, you're learning, and I truly appreciate the love you've given the Album Awards. To continue our efforts here, be sure to like this video, share it out with a friend, and join my Patreon to not only financially support content just like this, but to also get exclusive voting rights that literally saves 3 albums per quarter for me to review. The Front Bottoms take home the Friend Zone Award for In Sickness and in Flames. What the fuck is the Friend Zone Award? Good question. It's not a quirky reference to something hidden in the lyrics or a song title. It's just how I feel about In Sickness and in Flames, the 5th officially released album by the Front Bottoms. I'll explain more in a bit, but to quickly recap my history with the indie rockers, I was never huge on that earlier folkier sound that many of their fans would die to see them return to. I was the weird douchebag that strutted into the room like, "Oh, you guys like Talon of the Hawk? Bitch, please, Going Gray is the bee's knees, and I'll be damned if I let you tell me otherwise." Sickness and Flames isn't nearly as great as the singles that led us here. Camouflage is full of life, driven by a fun acoustic riff. Everyone Blooms is just some wholesome positivity we could all use. And Montgomery Forever is lights out perfection, possibly my favorite Front Bottoms song to date, with some incredible sing-along power to boot. But those only make up a small chunk of this 12-song outing, leading me to the words that no one ever really wants to hear: I like you, but not like that. Yep, I just friend-zoned an album by the Front Bottoms. Why watch reality TV when you get such healthy doses of drama right here on the Album Awards? I mean, I'll fuck around and hook up with the outstanding Leaf Pile and The Truth, along with some of the other songs I already mentioned, but Bus Beat and The Hard Way, along with some of the others, to speak my truth, I'm swiping left and leaving you a 3-star review in the App Store. JOJI collects the Sad Boy Hours Award for NECTAR. Imagine this album NECTAR like a long ride in a plane. It starts off great because you're excited about where you're going, you trail off in the middle because you've been seeing these same fucking clouds for the past 4 hours, but then euphoria kicks in with the final leg of the flight and you can't help but love every single second of what you're experiencing. Ladies and gentlemen, that's JOJI's new album, and although it could use a redacted version of the track list, great atmospheric moments of bliss do live here. Katy Perry takes home the Dying Star Award with Smile. Everything about Smile makes me want to frown. Yeah, I'm going for the low-hanging fruit. This album doesn't even deserve the extra effort. Hi there, Connor the Contrarian here. You seem to be dismissing a beloved pop star for the mere fact that she's outlived her relevancy, and I, for one, will not allow it. I'm actually just dismissing it because all of the songs are written by D-grade collaborators, the lack of personality from KATY, and really just about while KATY might have the personality of a stray sheep these days, we would never say those criticisms out loud. But you literally just said, I said what I said, and I said I disagree! If only I had the budget to ramp up security around here. Well, it's great to see some passion coming out of someone, but Lord help her, it sure wasn't Katy Perry. Smile is somehow under and overcooked. She rarely hits the sweet spot of pop perfection that she's clearly more than capable of doing. Tucked is great with its driving groove, and Never Really Over is a fun enough summer splash, but outside of that, you've got an aging singer trying on lots of pairs of shoes without ever finding a solid match. Witness was definitely cringe. I think a lot of us can agree on that with some of those off-the-rails fake woke moments, but at least there were some catchy bangers in the mix, and I really just can't say the same about this 36-minute snooze fest. Everything's latest album, RE-ANIMATOR, gets the Be Kind Rewind Award. Is this the most direct hit Everything Everything has ever landed? Yeah, holy shit, I think it is, and I also think that's why I had a slight learning curve getting into RE-ANIMATOR. This British art rock band has never been shy about being eccentric. I love them for that, but on LP5, the statements about impending doom are hard to ignore in a good way. Jonathan Hicks crushes it with the vocal takes, and the band sound as dynamic as ever. It's just that their ability to focus on so many sounds in one record can be a lot to take in on first listen. Look at this track list. You've got a synth monster arch enemy tucked away ready to snap, Big Climb pounds away with misleadingly sunny instrumentation, Lord of the Trapdoor proves to be meditative with these really clean strikes of the guitar and some nuanced bass work before that final payoff, and they close it out with the romantic leaning ode to live violent sun that's among my favorite songs they've made. RE-ANIMATOR just kept growing and growing and growing, and at this point, I like it even more than their last one, A Fever Dream, which hasn't sat as well with me over time, but it's still out of reach when it comes to their magnum opus, Get to Heaven. It's not as tight, as spirited, or as consistent, especially tracks 8 through 10 that drop the ball just a bit, but it closes on a killer note, and I'm gonna give this album a 4. The International Breakthrough Award goes to the Beths for their album Jump Rope Gazers. Showing some love to the New Zealand indie rock band the Beths this evening because they wholeheartedly deserve it. After bubbling up with their likable debut Future Me Hates Me, we now have Album 2, which absolutely was not a sophomore slump. If anything, Jump Rope Gazers is stronger and more versatile, parading on the catwalk of down-to-earth but sizzling indie rock. Guitars, guitars, guitars. So many head bop-worthy guitars fill up this LP to the brim, and I can just feel the good vibes seeping into my ears like dunking your head underwater on a hot summer day. This is a fantastic showing, and I'm so glad my viewers pointed me in the direction of the Beths. Their frontwoman Elizabeth Stokes is outstanding, and she might remind you a bit of some amalgamation of Courtney Barnett meets maybe Haley Shea of Slutface, but with her own set of wits and insight. Blissful harmonies bleed through the speakers on top of the already great groundwork she lays, and I noticed that all of the members seem to tap in at certain points to add a really unique dynamic to the mix. It's just a really refreshing sound that gets better and better each time I've come back to Jump Rope Gazers. The title track is a perfect example of everything they do well, taking the time out to reflect on a slightly slower song, but not forgetting to make its presence known long term. Watch out for the hook because the trap is set right out of the gate on I'm Not Getting Excited, one of the most level-headed but witty tunes on the record that roars to life with peppy drum rhythms and bouncy guitar licks. Mars, the god of water, effortlessly flexes their talent for multi-dimensional songs, Out of Sight naturally captures an emotional flow, and beyond some of the other sing-along standouts like Don't Go Away, I was really impressed with the gentle acoustic passage You Are a Beam of Light. Basically, the Beths come highly recommended, especially if you're not a New Zealander and haven't heard of them. It's all very authentic with a great indie sound that needs more ears on it. I'm giving Jump Rope Gazers a 4.5 out of 5. The sophomore album Under My Influence by the Aces gets the Coming of Age Award. It's easy to get all bubbly when talking about a band as groovy as the Aces, and in case you missed my thoughts on their debut album When My Heart Felt Volcanic, well, TLDR, I loved almost all of it, from the relentlessly catchy Volcanic Love to the moving ballad Hurricane. Now that we moved into the sophomore outing Under My Influence, I can't help but feel like I'm still smiling. Things are mostly good, but it went from an ultra light beam to the headlights on my Jeep almost overnight, and that's no bueno. Something about this all just feels underwritten despite the more creative liberties taken. I appreciate that sexuality is explored in more true to the author detail, but the pacing is piss poor, jumping from wannabe club bangers to songs that sound like they could have come on the first album to mid-tempo Sublime knockoffs. Yes, I said Sublime knockoff, listen to 801 and tell me it's not. Cringy lyrics fill the likes of Lost Angeles, and God knows I love a pun, but that one is beaten like a dead horse on the excruciating hook. Kelly has some great guitar work but gets bogged down in predictability, and we keep running into these walls that take us out of the fun. On the plus side, I really did enjoy the lead single Daydream, plus My Phone Is Trying to Kill Me was actually pretty funny. It got a few laughs out of me and showed promise for their new direction, so I haven't lost the faith just yet, but overall you can color me unimpressed with Under My Influence. The Better Luck Next Time award goes to Chip Chrome and the Monotones by The Neighborhood. What the hell kind of power does this band hold over people that makes them so passionate about their unbelievably lifeless music? I don't get it, and the eye-roll inducing concept album Chip Chrome and the Monotones is so utterly forgettable that you could serve it up on a piping hot platter to me a year from now and I probably wouldn't even recognize it. The Neighborhood are 7 years removed from their atmospheric splash onto the scene, and the ideas they so desperately need to reinvigorate the band are just not materializing. I hate that they're pushing this as a concept record when the themes are so unbelievably generic, you'd have to be grasping at straws and strings with a tinfoil hat on to try and piece together their lackluster chemtrails. When I'm sitting down with this very short album that feels much longer, it always seems to morph into this droning wall of background noise flatter than the state of Florida. They embrace a folkier side, which could fit the Neighborhood. The closing track, Middle of Somewhere, proves it can be pulled off, but instead, they just kind of wander aimlessly in the desert for 31 minutes, and then it's over, and I have zero reasons to care. I'll give Chip Chrome a 1.5. My advice, don't waste your time on this soul-sucking leech. The Bangers on Deck award goes to Self-Care by yours truly. One of the year's strongest and most pure pop-punk records came hand-delivered from Australia, with the young band in question being yours truly, a group that should excite you for a few reasons. They've been steadily dropping heat for a few years now with tracks like Circles and High Hopes, which is not a Panic at the Disco cover, surprisingly not being included on the album. They opted for a fresh start, and the final results speak for themselves. Self-Care features a slew of positive messaging interspersed with real-world scenarios I think a lot of people will connect to. The album is pretty much the perfect length, spearheaded by shouty tracks like Funeral Home and the spiraling ball of goodness Siamese Souls, which opens up the album on a super strong note. They managed to tuck in a breezy jam undersize that nicely changes up the pace and shows off their versatility, but most of this record just straight up rocks at a faster pace. Elephant in the room, I do think the mixing is pretty rough on Self-Care. They could definitely benefit from a more crisp sound. I'm hearing a lot of compression on some of the guitar and vocal tracks, and it feels like they should be flying out of your speaker, but they don't always sound so great on that end. Not a deal breaker, but it's something that I definitely couldn't ignore. But at the end of the day, if you're looking for some up-tempo, well-crafted pop punk, then yours truly's debut album is a must-hear. And now for a special presentation from the ARTV patrons, featuring albums you voted on. To make your vote count towards future installments of the Album Awards, sign up for as little as $1 a month at the top link in the video description. Seether get the So 90s It Hurts award for CV's PACEM Parabellum. Yep, I can see it coming from a mile away. That's a Seether album. This is comfort food for the rock fans missing the tint of aggression the 90s and 2000s scene had. Seether might be a run-of-the-mill band, but I've always thought they were one of the better mainstream rock acts that survived past their 2000s heyday of popularity. They balance back and forth between heavier and more melodic records, and this time around on Parabellum, they tossed in a lot of influence from Deftones and A Perfect Circle, at least according to them they did. And while I hear the 90s in a very big way, it's not exactly a big compliment. Guys, this album was saved by my patrons in a voting process, and I know a lot of other people wanted to hear my thoughts on it, but I skipped out on doing a dedicated review for the same reason that I skipped Poison the Parish. Seether just don't leave me with much to say past, well, yeah, that's Seether, and I guess there's some good songs in there. I just have a hard time caring because I outgrew this band. The posthumous album Done Right award goes to Legends Never Die by the late Juice WRLD. I'm not entirely sure what I expected to find on Legends Never Die, but whatever it was, I got a lot more than I bargained for, and I hate that I was slow to the draw this time. Jared Higgins, aka Juice WRLD, passed away late last year at the age of 21, so RIP to the artist in question, and once again, I'm awarding the posthumous album Done Right award, just like I did to Circles by Mac Miller. So I'd enjoyed some of Juice's work in his short career, but there was also plenty of shit I could just not get behind. In fact, a lot of his material suffered from the same problems so many other modern rappers have: quantity over quality. I'll admit, I prejudged this record before even hearing it, just based on the fact that there were so many tracks, even if the overall length was shorter than Death Race for Love. I heard a few bands I liked covering songs from Legends, so I said fuck it, let's put it on the Patreon calendar, see if people vote for it, and you did, and you gave me a reason to break out of my box. Juice brought something special with this evolutionary record, and from what I understand, it seems like it was mostly completed before he passed, which does make me feel more comfortable about the fact that it's a posthumous album. He was one of the biggest voices in the modern wave of emo rap, and there's so many highlights here that fuse rap, rock, and pop in really catchy but overtly sad ways. Addiction, lifestyle adjustments, fallen friends, there's a lot on his mind, and songs like Titanic and Wishing Well show off why he appeals to such a huge crowd. The production is shifty but familiar, to a fault at some points, in the end winning more than it loses due to the sheer consistency of his branding. I saved a solid handful of tracks here. Fuck Blood on My Jeans, can't stand that one, and other than that, 3.5 out of 5. Neon Trees collect the Fallen Angel Award for I Can Feel You Forgetting Me. Neon Trees, oh man, there's a name I hadn't thought about much in a long time, but I guess that's what makes the title of the album so fitting. I Can Feel You Forgetting Me. It's like they knew they'd been away too long and this album wasn't gonna do well on the charts, unlike their golden days of the early 2010s that were peppered with top 40 hits. Those were good times. I loved a lot of the Neon Trees singles and deep cuts, despite none of their albums fully landing a major blow that I'd call irresistible. They're a likable band with a charismatic frontman Tyler Glenn, and I think a lot of the expectations were off of their shoulders as they took aim at the heartbreak-laden dance floor on album 4. That being said, this isn't a great album, but it is a more mature, refined, but boppable album than Pop Psychology 6 years ago. Used to Like is memorable, catchy, and reliable, but maybe not as strong as some of their other big hits. Skeleton Boy looks inward in a sea of bubbling synths and 80s soaked guitar reverb, and you really can't deny some of the other songs like New Best Friend either. It's just that it all starts to blend together a bit as the night burns on. I Can Feel You Forgetting Me is a brief 33-minute in and out listen, so there's no harm in at least giving it a chance. I've never completely fallen in love with an entire album of theirs, but you can always count on Neon Trees to deliver some palatable ass earworms, and album 4 has its share of those too. The Retro Goth Award goes to Sex, Death, and the Infinite Void by Creeper. Born Cold was a misleading single, at least on some level it feels that way, having spent a lot of time with the UK rock band's sophomore effort. It's a killer song that definitely dialed in some new techniques, without sacrificing their call to arms brand of musicality that made their debut so unforgettable. I'm at peace with their new direction though, even if a few cuts lag behind and get lapped by the competition. It's not like there's any abhorrent songs that make you question why you were even a fan in the first place, they just don't always hit the nail square on the head. Sex, Death, and the Infinite Void is a sprawling affair full of dark purple and black, an immersive goth sound that takes cues from the 50s and 60s rock and roll diner scene. It's messy, untethered at times, but forgiving some of those unbearably cheesy interludes, I'd say this is still a must-hear album. Ava Max nabs the Girls Got Potential Award for Heaven and Hell. Nothing's wrong, I'm torn, okay? I'm flustered because I care, and I know Ava Max has the potential to be huge in the pop world. Will she ever fully get there, though? It's too damn early to tell. Heaven and Hell suffered a few setbacks as Ava lamented what would and wouldn't make the cut, so we now have a 15-song set split into 2 halves, much like her hair.
Okay, I know this might not be the best time to ask, but do you think I could pull it off with my hair?
I think the only thing you could pull off is your hair. No one's buying it, bro. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but everyone knows you shaved it off years ago. You sold out.
This is fucking preposterous, John. Everyone loves my extremely real hair and my hat almost as much as I love Ava Max.
What was that? Did XX Brutal Swag 69XX just admit that he loves Ava Max?
No, fuck you. No, I didn't. Fuck Ava Max and all her bangers like Tattoo and Belladonna.
Oh, buddy, I don't disagree. Those are 2 of the best songs on the album. But those are deep cuts, man. Not even the singles. You just outed yourself as a major undercover stan.
This can't go out to the public. Cut that shit right now and let Papa Roach and Seether and Skillet and Mountain Dew and Papa Roach and Five Finger Death Ball.
The Try Hard Award goes to Glass Animals for Dreamland. Ewy! Gooey! Ew! Mom, I told you I didn't want Glass Animals for dinner. You know they're pure sugar. My body can't take that much sweetness. Earlier this year, I slapped this ambitious alt-pop outfit on my list of bands I just can't for the life of me seem to get into, and this record Dreamland was the nail in the coffin for me ever thinking I was crossing the magical bridge to Terabithia. Oh sure, their frontman Dave Bailey would love for you to see them as post-genre avant-pop madness that defies all odds, but really, it's just a try-hard weird for the sake of wanting to be weird so it's actually not even weird. Yeah, they're back riding that horse into the sunset. But wait, what's that, Lassie? Davey fell down the well of introspection and wants us to get nostalgic with him just because he's listing off references to things 90s kids will understand? Okay, BuzzFeed, cool. Let me just pretend to care about that as if they're doing anything special at all. Glass Animals are pretty much Radiohead's Creep in band form. I wish I was special. You're so fucking special, but I want to be too, so I'll once again overcompensate by adding ridiculous amounts of bass programming, sugary synths that would make even Willy Wonka tap out, and the overall feeling of being invited to tour the entire candy factory, except they make you wait in the fucking lobby the entire time. It's not fun. I don't do well with never-ending elevator rides in candy factories. God, there I go again, being a total dick to Glass Animals when really you could do a whole lot worse. I just think they're massively overrated. They know their craft and it seems like they're good to their fans. I just hear way too much of the same thing and nothing all at the same time, and Dreamland pushed it to the edge of insanity for me. Never say never, but for now, I'm retiring after just one Glass Animals review. The Face Melter Award goes to OHMS by Deftones. Heavy, fierce, and hyper-aware of the world crumbling around them, Deftones swept me up in their storm in a way that I haven't seen in at least 8 years from them, probably even more. OHMS features a 9-string guitar on each of its 10 songs, packing a seriously critical hit in a tight 46-minute blowout that feels like pure ecstasy lighting up your brainwaves. It's among the best albums they've ever released, and that raises the question: how many bands this far into their career can not only stay this consistent, but also outdo themselves more than 20 years after their breakout album? Open Up Your Head, the debut album by Seagirls, gets the Rope Climber Award. For a debut album that most fans had already heard the majority of well before it released, just due to the sheer amount of delays the record experienced, this ain't bad at all, but it also ain't great either. It also ain't grammatically correct. Somebody please stop me. Open Up Your Head is the proper first album from the English indie rock band Seagirls, and I found myself in the privileged situation of not knowing them at all until a few weeks before the album, thus successfully avoiding the years worth of waiting that for some made the album feel disappointing. I don't think this is a monumental effort for the ages, but it reeks of the 2000s indie movement in a good way. A way that makes me feel confident about a resurgence in the genre in the next few years. Indie rock hooks for days might be enough to sell you on this, but I do like Seagirls. I gave them the Rope Climber Award for a reason. They're lively and naive, but likable and well on their way. I'm giving the English band's debut album a light 3.5 out of 5. The Comeback of the Year Award goes to Folklore by Taylor Swift. Listen up, haters, pipe the F down and cut my girl Taylor some effing slack, okay? She's dropping F-bombs now, so I'm going the family-friendly route to make sure that balance is restored in the world. Now that I have your attention, let's talk about Taylor Swift's best album so far, Folklore. I didn't think she had it in her. I truly didn't. She proved me wrong and silenced pretty much any criticism I could levy against her by defying the odds to return to the tippity top of her throne, swaying her crown about gently on the breeze while narrating her own life, and more importantly, narrating that of other women as she brilliantly puts on varying lenses to explore their perspectives. Lyrically, Taylor's 8th album is full of majestic intrigue that plays beautifully to our senses, not just what we can hear, but also to what we can imagine as she explores a new chapter musically. This is her indie record, a folk album with rock and chamber pop and alternative edges fluttering up to the surface. It's almost surreal to absorb it all, but it's all real, it's all there, and it's that damn good. Yeah, I called out haters as a joke when I started this segment, but I've seen so many people turn their heads like The Exorcist when they realize this is a legitimately high quality record, and not just by Swiftie standards either. You will feel this record in your head, in your bones, in your heart, and in your tear ducts, unfortunately, because Taylor cuts onions on more than one occasion, and God help me, I love it! Let the tears ricochet, and while you're at it, cue up that bonus track, The Lakes. It's one of the most perfect songs she's ever written. BIFFY CLYRO proudly take home the Cherry Popper Award for their album A Celebration of Endings. I truly never listened to much BIFFY CLYRO until 2020, clearly a bad life choice on my end, but yeah, I was recommended their new album A Celebration of Endings at one of my live events, and I'm now a full-fledged fan of the band. My cherry has officially been popped. The way they play with typical song structures and fluctuate time signatures clearly makes BIFFY stand out from the pack, but I love how unafraid they are to blend in pop with their harder rock tendencies. Granted, it didn't work out too well on Ellipses in 2016, but they've returned a lot of the guitar gusto here, and I am all about it. A Celebration of Endings is a strong 4, a lot of bang for your buck, and plenty of bangers to join the replay squad in your playlist. The Punktastic Evolution Award goes to Ultramono by IDLES. God, this band just ripped. They really understand how to keep a strong stamina while evolving their punk sound, all while making you think, uh-oh, maybe they're changing, but then you realize the changes are actually fantastic, and now you're a dozen listens deep into Ultramono. They made an album that was right out of the gate gonna be hard to top, but Ultramono sure as hell doesn't live in the shadow of its big brother. It steps off to its own path, with more emphasis being placed on brooding grooves, pummeling punchlines, and constructive politics. IDLES don't live in a bubble, they take their own experiences and lash out on behalf of the world's underrepresented people, and they do it all with a smile as they slit your throat. To state the obvious, lots of love, thought, and sweat and the whole 9 yards got poured in this time, giving the fans an extremely versatile beast that ventures outside of their roots without betraying their core spirit. Look at the single Grounds with those choppy guitars stirred in with programming from Kenny Beats. It slaps so hard, and that only continues to be a positive trait on the ever-important Model Village, the collab with Jenny Beth, the unbelievably good Reigns that hits an insane stride that I can't stop coming back to. The whole track list is stuffed full of passion. Some of the more simmery cuts don't feel as well developed, so expect a few skips to happen, at least after you've spun the record a few times, but without a doubt, this thing flies off the handle at all the right times, and I really don't think this is that much of a step down from Joy as an act of resistance at all. Strong 4 goes out to Ultramono. Keep doing your thing, IDLES, we'll keep listening. Knuckle Puck's 2020 gets the Well, It's Better Than the Last One award. With a name like 2020, this record should probably just be the sound of a burning dumpster fire put to tape with occasional dips into shouting match deliriums, but hey, it's a pop-punk album modeled after The Year and Perfect Vision, something I have myself, and hell yes, that was a fucking eyeball flex. 2020 is the Chicago band's 3rd album, and it's definitely a whole lot better than Shapeshifter, which was a total snooze fest, but it still feels neutered compared to Copacetic and their early EPs. I honestly did have fun jamming through this thing, and it got better once I loosened up and let go of the fact that Joe Taylor doesn't sound as great as he used to, but it's still not what I'd call grade A perfection. The Fake Deep Award goes to Everything Is Nothing by Blackbear. Why? Why would you ever listen to this? Even in the shit tier of fake deep pop rap whatever the fucks, Blackbear fails to stand out, and Everything Is Nothing highlights his absolute worst qualities and drags those nails straight down the chalkboard for more than 30 minutes. If forced wannabe relatable try-hard lyrics with abysmal production attracts you, go nuts with it? Just know that this dog shit barely avoided the full-on 0. And finally, Imploding the Mirage by The Killers gets the Heart Thumper Award. Closing out on a much better note, The Killers have always seemed to have this underlying game plan that I've always admired, and Imploding the Mirage boosts that to new heights. You see, Brandon Flowers collects what I like to call fossils of life brought on by his own journeys and experiences, later turning them to gold by emotionally harvesting and replanting the crops in song form. There's so much life on this new record. The positivity is radiant, and if you're not cracking a full-face smile while thumping your hand over your heart while listening, you might just be a cynical son of a bitch. Any fan of any era of The Killers should be able to appreciate what this album's going for. There's the heartland melodies that flutter to the sky, the irresistible catchiness putting a pep in your step, the heavy weight of love that makes you swoon. Nothing was left on the table, and despite them being completely without their founding guitarist once again, the very special guests and collaborators step up not only to fill that role, but to knock it out of the damn ballpark. To each and every one of you that tuned into the Third Quarter Album Awards, thank you so much for watching. As your host, I hope you enjoyed the presentation. A special thank you goes out to my current $50 patrons, Brandon, Cleo, Dayton, and Seth. If you want to help support the content financially, then hit the top link in the description down below. Don't forget to subscribe with notifications on. Year-end content is just around the corner, so be patient, it's on the way. Thank you again for watching, and I'll be back soon with more on ARTV.